And now, streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Oh, thank you, John. Anything you want to talk about today, folks? My phone lines are wide open. They generally always are. And John, just go through once again how people can text, etc., to get through to us here.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially those who contacted me after yesterday's show saying, you tell Lowell this. No, you tell Lowell that. Here's the number, 613-413-2217. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitch, if you're watching on Facebook, the number is at the bottom of your screen. Again, 613-413-2217.
I'm a bit surprised at the response yesterday because the overwhelming majority favor, at least those who contacted us, and, you know, we get 50 or 60 responses, I guess. Overwhelming majority favored mandatory vaccination. A few people opposed to it, but I was a little surprised. I thought it'd be more even, but quite surprised. I have another topic I want to deal with that first, however. Although I must tell you that there are some new and very startling facts coming to light, which we will get into a little bit later in this program. But, excuse me, in the meantime, let's deal with another issue here. What do you think? What's your guess here? What's your educated guess? Are we going to be saddled with a majority Trudeau government for another 4 or 5 years? Or do you think that in the end, voters will see the light and boot him out? What do you think the chances of that are? I guess really it boils down to, does Erin O'Toole have what it takes to beat Trudeau? To be more specific, does Erin O'Toole have enough to manage to attract more women? Because we've been talking about this for some time. But there is a new poll out which indicates exactly what we've been saying, and that is that for every man who supports Justin Trudeau, there are about 2 women. So very clearly, O'Toole's problem is with women. For some reason, overwhelming majority of women do not like, or they do not at least, excuse me, my throat's giving out here. They do not support O'Toole. It's also true to a degree with young people, but essentially, if O'Toole could persuade just about 10% more women to vote for him, then he could very well win. I don't know what he could do or say that would attract more women. Maybe some of you people out there who are listening may have an idea, particularly you women. What do you think it is about O'Toole that women are so hesitant about? I'm not going to ask what's so attractive about Trudeau. Um, uh, obviously, Trudeau, whatever it is, has a lot of women supporting him. And this is the reason that in all probability, at least according to many of the polls, the Trudeau is going to win again. I'm not sure because elections, the campaigns do make a difference. We've seen that in the past. I've been around a long time, and I have seen situations where it seemed to be a shoe-in for one particular party, and in the end, because of an extremely strong campaign, the other party won. So it could happen, but I'd like to know from you what you think. And please don't come to me and say, well, we should change our leader. We're not going to change the leader, at least not now. Aaron O'Toole, whether you like him or not, is the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada. And he is going to be the leader that takes us into the next election, which is not to say that even if we do win, that somehow or other, if you want to change, we could possibly change. But it seems to me the job here is to get rid of Trudeau. I know a lot of you people disagree with me, but I mean, here is a man who, among many other things, forget the scandals and all the rest of it, which nobody seems to be concerned about. Here is a man who, to this point, has run up more debt. This is the honest to God's truth, folks. Don't just take it from me. This is a man who has run up more debt than all the previous prime ministers in this country combined. Think of that. This is a debt of well over $1 trillion that we are saddling on our children, our grandchildren, great-grandchildren. And for some reason, people just don't seem to care. As one example of what I'm talking about that I find very puzzling, because ordinarily you would think that we Canadians are pretty reasonable people, pretty down-to-earth people. But there's a new poll out which indicates that more people think that Singh would make a better prime minister than O'Toole. The polls indicate that the number one choice for prime minister is Justin Trudeau. Number two choice is Singh. Number three choice, O'Toole. So here we have Justin Trudeau, who's run up, as I say, more debt than all other premiers or prime ministers combined. And then we have the next in line in favor is Singh, who would probably double that debt. And yet people still think this is what we want and need in this country. It's astonishing. But what is your opinion here, folks? I'd really like to know. A lot of people contact the show just to say hello to each other, but the intent of this program is to tap into public opinion. There are very few shows like this left anywhere, okay? So we need you to take part. This is how public opinion is not only gauged, but in some cases changed. People listen to what other people's opinions are, and in some cases, opinions are changed. But we need some serious thought here, some serious reaction to this, okay? Just once again, John, tell people how they can get in touch with us.
Yeah, even if you love Trudeau, we'd like to just ask you why. You don't even have to tell us your name. We're at 613-413-2217. Again, 613-413-2217.
And the text address, how do they get through to
text number is exactly the same, and you can email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. We are on Lowell's Facebook. We're on the Lowell Green fan page Facebook. We're on my Facebook. We are on the Blast the Radio YouTube page and on Blast the Radio's Twitch feed as well.
So to sum up on this particular topic, can O'Toole pull it off, in your opinion? In your opinion, what does he have to do to switch public opinion, particularly female public opinion? Or is it a lost cause? Should we just forget about this and wait until another leader comes along? What's your opinion here? Do you think that is there anything he can do, do you think, to bring people around? He appears to be trailing in the poll by 5 or 6 points. Now, some people don't believe in polls, but generally speaking, if you have a number of polls and they all indicate the same thing, it's probably at least close to the truth. So right now, it would appear that if an election were held tomorrow, that Justin Trudeau would win quite handily. Whether he'd win a majority or not, I'm not sure. I don't think the polls are quite clear on that. John, what are people having to say out there?
So following Facebook, following Twitch, following YouTube, Lori says, I wish I knew. I don't like O'Toole or Trudeau and Liberals, and I've always been PC, except for now. And she's questioning herself. Jay says he foresees a minority conservative government with an NDP opposition. I don't know about are you talking about overall, Jay? Anyway, J-Man, if you could please clarify on Twitch. And says someone mentioned that perhaps the new Governor General should deny Justin Trudeau an election, given that he has 2 years left on his mandate to clean up the boil water issues.
No, let's deal with the issue here. I mean, the Governor General is not going to deny Justin Trudeau what he wants. If Justin Trudeau wants an election tomorrow, he's going to have the election, okay? I know. So let's deal with reality, not what might be or should be, or let's deal with reality. And it's I don't think it's what I'd also like to know is, okay, our first texter said she doesn't like O'Toole. What is it that she doesn't like about him? That to me is key here.
Yep.
What does he have to do? I mean, he is a decent man. He performs very well in the House. He's a good family man, good community man from all that we know. He's served the public very, very well. Never been touched by scandal of any kind. There's no blackface in his history. There's no groping in his history. There are no wee scandals in his history. But yet, like the first person who wrote that says she doesn't like him. But what is it? I mean, is it just you don't like the look of him? You don't like the way he wears his hair? You don't like the way he wears his suits? I'm not sure. What is it? What do you find? Because that was the first one as a woman. Very clearly, a lot of women aren't supporting Justin Trudeau. I'd like to get some idea. What is it about the guy? More text. Yes, John.
All right. So the question you're asking then is, what does O'Toole need to do? We'd like to hear from
can he do it, or is it just is it just too late here?
Mike says, I know this is a small thing, but Canada pays the highest cell phone bills in the world. We've addressed that one before on previous shows, Lowell, of course. Kim says, vote Liberals out, just get out and vote. Todd says he could announce that he'd take the carbon tax off home heating. That would win a lot of votes. Peter says, I like O'Toole, but he needs to get tough on Trudeau. Trudeau is a pop culture creation. You get regular Liberal voters. Media never asks him anything tough. Being PM gives him a national stage every time he speaks. Trudeau had press conferences this week, but O'Toole was nowhere on TV. You know, I got to speak to that because you and I have talked about this as well, Lowell. I'm following Aaron O'Toole on social media. I'm not seeing anything from him ever.
Well, he's made a number of appearances on Facebook, but you're right. Now, mind you, as Prime Minister, I mean, here's the guy that's handing out all of the money, and not only the Prime Minister, but members of his cabinet, etc., from coast to coast to coast, handing out billions of dollars, here, there, and everywhere of taxpayers' money. And of course, they get the publicity. That kind of publicity is not available to O'Toole. But I grant you that he's not very visible. That's for sure. Maybe, I don't know if it's part of the strategy. Any other text? Any other ideas? I would really like to hear from some women. What do you think? What is it about O'Toole? I guess what I don't understand is Justin Trudeau has demonstrated time and time again he is no feminist. I mean, look at his history with strong women. I mean, I don't have to go through Jody Wilson, Ray Ball, Jane Philpott. We've had a woman called him all sorts of names, et cetera, et cetera. His record with strong women is not very good. But so you have that. You've got the groping incident, all the rest of it on one side. And on the other side, you got a guy who's a strong family man. And yet it's the strong family man that women don't seem to like. And I just find it puzzling. That's all. If some of you women can clarify it, I'd sure appreciate it. Yes, John, more texts.
Yes, absolutely. And again, listen, call the show. We'd like to hear your opinion. 613-413-2217. Carrie says he needs to be more visible. Hard to compete with Trudeau having COVID updates almost every day from his front step. Robert says O'Toole will now get a chance to campaign. He will do well in debates. That will be interesting to watch. I agree with that. Robert says O'Toole and all Conservative candidates have an uphill battle because Trudeau has bought and paid for the mainstream media. The Liberals' corruption and mismanagement is constantly ignored and not reported as it should be. Mike says, I don't like him that much either, but he's a hell of a lot better than what we've currently got.
All right, I'm going to. I have another topic here, and by the way, we'll still be glad to take your comments on that.
Of course.
On this issue of anti-vaxxers, okay? I never asked you this before. Why do you think that we have in the city of Ottawa about 100,000 adults eligible for vaccines who have not as yet had a single shot? What do you think are the real reasons? I'm puzzled about why women don't like O'Toole, and I'm puzzled about this, how in light of all of the evidence that we have now about the effectiveness of vaccines, that we still have in the city of Ottawa, which is a highly educated city, a highly motivated city, high-income city, et cetera, that we have about 100,000 people, neighbors of ours, who just are dragging their feet. And as a consequence, of course, as we all know, prolonging the pandemic. And there's some new startling figures out that underscore what I am saying here. I've had people, and John had criticisms yesterday about me and so forth. But look, the facts are there for anybody to understand. CBS News has just reported that almost all new cases of COVID, 99.7% are among those not vaccinated. That is a shocking fact. In other words, and I said this yesterday, that what has happened here is that COVID now in North America has become a disease of the unvaccinated. Almost all new cases of COVID, in almost all new cases, 99.7% are among those not vaccinated. And by the way, just to exacerbate the problem, this is in the United States, hospitalization rates for COVID are up in 17 states, almost exclusively among the unvaccinated. In Florida, the hospitalization rate has increased 27% in the last 3 weeks, almost all, of course, with the Delta variant. And here's another statement that's very disturbing. Dr. Greg Gardere, chief of emergency at Mountain West Hospital in Utah, says that people are getting a lot sicker than they were during the winter with COVID. The new Delta variant makes people much sicker. And he also points out that invariably, almost exclusively, those people coming in for hospitalization are unvaccinated. So I have no idea why the hesitancy of, as I say, about 100,000 people in Ottawa to get vaccinated. The proof is there. It's turning out that only the unvaccinated are becoming sick. In other words, if everybody was vaccinated, essentially, it would be wiped out. Not totally. I don't think we'll ever totally wipe it out, but certainly we could get back to normal lives. We have a caller on the phone. Randy, you're on the line. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Aaron O'Toole. A disappointment. And the reason I say a disappointment is that the same thing that happened to Andrew Scheer is that they're invisible. Why are they not making public statements after Trudeau makes announcements or whatever? You need to be in the public's eye. You need to be known. People still don't know who Aaron O'Toole is. So if you're going to do a poll or even, unfortunately, go to an election, he's an unknown. You have to let the Canadian people know who you are, and that's how you become likable. But nobody knows who he is. He's hiding. And,
well, let me just jump in here. I'm not denying what you're saying, but it doesn't explain why the division. Okay, because he is just as invisible to men as he is invisible to women. But men, if only men were voting, then he would win. But it's almost 2-to-1 women who support Trudeau. So the invisibility certainly is a factor. But why is it more of a factor with women than men?
I guess I think it would be interesting to know what is the age group of the women that are quote unquote attracted or not attracted to Aaron O'Toole?
Right. Actually, I've been examining this. It's pretty well right through up until about 65. The women over 65 tend to support the Conservatives. There is more of a cohort with the younger who support Trudeau, but generally speaking, all women who have voting age up to the age of 65 prefer Trudeau about 2-1 over O'Toole.
Well, speaking as a woman under 65,
yeah.
I guess for me personally, I'm not looking at his looks or any of that stuff. I want to hear substance out of his voice. And I guess maybe if you come across as a very stiff, old school, fuddy-duddy, then you're not going to have the same appeal. Whereas, Trudeau, the open collar and everything else, maybe has a certain allure, except, of course, then Trudeau has to open his mouth, and that's a whole other story. But I just think that, maybe they need to loosen Aaron O'Toole up a little bit, and people need to know who he is. And then if I just may diverge a little bit, I think one of the issues, in my own opinion, with even getting a leader for the Conservative Party, and I'm not, I think the ranked ballot, what they've done the past two leadership conventions, may also be part of the problem, because people were so busy thinking of not just who I was voting for the first, but they were doing all the ranked ballots to see who they could make sure didn't get in, that in essence, maybe you aren't really getting a true picture of who people think are the best leader. And, if you want to call it the old-fashioned way, when,
okay. I don't think for most people that is really important. But I understand what you're saying. It's still puzzling to me, because I keep going back to Trudeau's history with women. As I say, here is this guy, the groping, won't go through it all again, up against a very good, solid family man. And you
totally
would think
agree.
that women...
I agree with you. I agree with you. But the thing is that he is not letting the women know who he is.
Okay.
Nobody knows who he is.
And okay, let me just stop you, because I have to move on. Do you think that is more important for women? Do you think having a closer look at a person is more important for women? In other words, you think women maybe are more careful than men in that regard?
I'm not really sure, because I think everybody, I happen to follow politics. Not every woman does. So maybe I'm not a good person to really give a really balanced view on that. Me personally, I just want to know what he stands for, and I want to see him out there.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you listen, I appreciate the call. I wish more people would. Shields. Here, once again, folks, we're talking about a local business, family-run business since 1947, in the same family. Grandpa, father, and now the son. But, that's fine and dandy. But when I talk about the product, people are very surprised. When you check out the website, as John has done, you check out the website for Shield, you'll be very, very surprised. This is upscale. These people know what they're doing. That's very, very, very clear. And when Randy was talking about, you need to know the product in the case of O'Toole, the person, but you also need to know the product and have a good look at the product if you're buying expensive appliances. And the website from Shields provides that. It's very easy to use. Just go there, no matter what it is that you're in the market for. You want to price it, you want to see it, you want a particular color, you want a price range, whatever it is, it's all there. Shield, and not only that, it's in stock. They'll have it right there. They'll have it in your house delivered, and maybe even installed, because in some cases, the guy that delivers will also install. There's a big benefit for you. Shields.ca. More texts coming in. Yes, John.
Let me also mention, by the way, you talked about an air fryer that goes in the oven available at Shields. Okay, I'm onto the website as soon as the show is done.
I was reading the, I don't understand this whole air frying, but this apparently is the big thing right now.
Yeah, I don't understand it either, but I'm dying to find out.
Shields have air fryers of all kinds, including apparently air fryers in your oven. So you better check with them to get all of the details. More text coming in, John.
Get ready, Packenham. I'm coming. All right. Lori says, I just don't know anything about Aaron O'Toole. He needs to be out there more. Not visible. No charisma. Not saying I won't vote for him. Not saying he's a bad guy. Is he tough enough? I really was all in for Pierre Poilievre to run, but he didn't. Laurie adds that O'Toole is stuffy with no charisma, and unfortunately that does make a difference. Another Laurie says, Aaron doesn't really talk like he cares for us. Peter says, doesn't seem to matter what Trudeau does. It's like Clinton doing what he did in the past. And the women's groups all defended him. Nat says, O'Toole does cheesy photo ops, like we know you're not really a runner, Aaron. Ann says, seems to me that women didn't favor Harper either, but he did get a majority in the end. Nat says, O'Toole looks like he smells like mothballs. Strong family man that gets drunk on Facebook.
Wait, do I say that again? That's delicious.
Oh,
read that again.
Sure. Now you're making me laugh. O'Toole looks like he smells like mothballs.
That's very interesting. Looks like he smells like mothballs.
Nat goes on to say, strong family man that gets drunk on Facebook Live with his wife. Maxime all the way, says Nat.
Oh, God.
Well,
you can't tell me this guy supports Maxime Bernier. Oh, come on.
Nat is a woman, by the way. You're asking for female.
Oh, whatever then. Oh, my God. You know what? If people support that Maxime Bernier, and number one, one of the things that I have against Maxime would destroy the family farm. That son of a bitch wants to destroy the last vestige of a family farm. And that alone, as far as I am concerned, he should be hung-strung, put in bed, and the skin of his arse pulled over his head. Go ahead, John, please.
Donna says the reason is...
I'll be a little bit more emphatic the next time I talk about that son of a bitch.
If you could give me a clip or two that I could use in a promo, that'd be wonderful.
Oh, well, there you go.
Donna says the reason is because of far-right misinformation on social media, plain and simple. Todd says, too many Canadians have drank the climate Kool-Aid, and PCs have no choice but to have one as well, but at least they can tweak it a bit. Peter says, all those people who don't get a vaccine think they know too much and spend time digging up reasons not to. When they get tested and leave the hospital with no vaccine, they should be kept until they do. And Carrie says,
let me read you another quote.
Yes.
I read you the CBS says that almost all new COVID cases, in almost all cases, 99.7% are among those not vaccinated. That's right across the United States. I wouldn't be surprised if the figures are about the same for Canada. Here's another very interesting statement. Dr. Celine Grounder, she is a New York infectious disease specialist, says, quote, if you have both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, you are fully protected against severe disease, hospitalization, and death. So there you go. There is, and as I say, Dr. Greg Gardner, chief of emergency at Mountain West Hospital in Utah, says that he sees people getting sicker and sicker coming in for hospitalization because of the Delta variant. And in every case, or he says virtually every case, they are unvaccinated. So I just don't understand this. I know I keep pounding this, but folks, if you don't get vaccinated, you are letting this virus stay alive. You are giving the vaccination, the virus, a chance to mutate, to get worse. You are keeping us locked down in some cases. You are keeping the pandemic alive. Okay, got to get a word in here about my other sponsor. God bless him, Centennial Glass. I mentioned yesterday, and I had several people inquiry about this. There are a number of government programs out now for various windows, doors, etc. I am unclear. I just can't keep track of it all. I'm not sure if the government itself keeps track of it, but I'll tell you who does keep track of it. If you're interested, for example, in some project, major or minor, windows, doors, etc., give Centennial Glass a call. They'll be able to tell you if there are any government rebate programs or incentive programs available. They stay fully abreast of this. And you know that when you sign a deal or even verbally agree with a deal with Centennial, they are people of their word. They're good people who do very good work. CentennialGlass.ca. More texts coming in here, John.
Yeah, almost out of time, but a couple of texts do remain from Facebook, etc. Carrie says, I asked the Conservative Party why Aaron O'Toole doesn't say what he's for, and their answer was that until the election is called, he doesn't want to say what he wants to do so the Liberals can steal his ideas. That's from Carrie. And an email to Lowell at blasttheradio.com from Lisa, who says, the anti-vaxxers. What I can't figure is that people will inject, snort, or smoke illicit drugs with unknown substances, risking their health or life, yet hesitate to take a proven vaccine to save their lives.
Or, when you're talking about people, I'm not going to put that on my body. Let me ask you this. When you buy a teen burger, do you know what's in there? Do you watch the people make the teen burger or anything else? I mean, my goodness. Some people are claiming, it's a government plot. I don't know if people really believe that. What I suspect is that in most cases, not every case, there may be some people with legitimate concerns. I grant you that. But I think in most cases, what we're dealing with people here who just are damn lazy. They don't care about anybody other than themselves. They couldn't care less about their neighbors or anybody else. If they're going to if they're going to infect someone else, that, you know what they say, tough titty, I don't care. I think that's the case with most of them. Not them all, but with most. They are uncaring, very selfish, miserable people. All right, John, we have to go here. Something else you got to say?
I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with you on the anti-vaxxers. I wonder if a lot of it isn't just... The misinformation is everywhere, and we've never been through this pandemic thing before, and never before have we talked about vaccines, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's everywhere now, and everybody becomes an expert, and I think that a lot of people have just... They don't know the processes of what a vaccine is, et cetera. So when they hear about it, they think that this thing seems awfully rushed. And so I think a lot of the hesitation is there, even though, as we've discussed often, these are just a different variation on a vaccine that has already existed.
I understand your point, but let's keep in mind that we are now 7 months into the vaccine program.
Yeah.
Tens of millions of people around the world have been vaccinated. In Canada, we've got tens of millions vaccinated here. The United States, well, that's right around the world, as I say, and with almost no adverse effects from the vaccine. We have it there. Almost all new cases are unvaccinated people. What other proof do you need?
I don't know.
Thank you, John. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google,